folks, welcome back to Kdogs Movies. This time around I'm going to take a look at two different movies based on the same book. Now, we see this quite commonly in this day and age where studios will remake a movie that was based on a book. And what they essentially do now is basically go back to the original source material and they will do another adaptation is what they basically do. Example, True Grit. There was a John Wayne movie made back in the late 60s, and then there was the 2010-2011 Jeff Bridges version directed by the Coen brothers, and it's a completely different adaptation and different in tone. But what I have is actually a Disney movie, two Disney movies that were based on the same novelization, but they're told completely different. One is more documentary style, and the other one is just straight up entertainment. And both movies are unique in their own way. It's interesting on how much they changed when they decided to retell the story and and so on and so forth. What am I talking about? You may be saying, what is he going on and about? The first film adaptation is the actual title of the book. When the movie was remade or readapted in 1993, they changed the title. The first film from 1963, it's The Incredible Journey. Actually, Walt Disney himself was alive when this film was produced. And then in 1993, Disney decides to retell the story and do another adaptation with Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. Now, I always want to cover that up because there is a sequel, and I'll get to that later on. So, in 1963, Walt Disney decides to adapt Sheila Burnford's novel, The Incredible Journey, to the screen. The story's about two dogs and a cat who make this incredible journey across the wilderness to find their owners. The animals have been in the care of a family friend, and they miss their owners when the family friend decides to take off for a while and go do an activity, but he promises that they will be back within a certain amount of time. But you know what? Animals don't see that out of us. They don't know the difference. They just know, hey, you're gone and we miss you, and so on and so forth. And so they get homesick and start to find their master. There are significant differences between both of these movies. Now, I can't talk about one without talking about the other, because what I just told you, the description is what the ultimate result is in both films. How it happens, what has changed. They change quite a bit between the two different films. One thing that they do get right, or not get right, but one thing that is constant between the two is it's two dogs and a cat. You have a in, I think, the original film, it's a Labrador Retriever. Yeah. It's a Labrador Retriever that is the main leader of the bunch. And in the 1993 version, it's a Golden Retriever that's the leader of the bunch. Now, here's where the differences start to appear. In the original movie, the Labrador Retriever is the younger dog. He's the one that's homesick and wants to go find Master, okay? But the Labrador Retriever in this film is the younger dog. Now, in Homeward Bound, the Golden Retriever is the one that is homesick, and that dog is the oldest dog. He's a very old dog. And they are both however, they're both leaders of their specific animal group. And the white dog, in the original film, it's a bull terrier, and that one is the older dog in this film. And he's just kind of following the Labrador Retriever around. Even though he finds himself getting quite tired very, very quickly and needs to rest quite often. While in the 1993 Homeward Bound film, the young dog is the bulldog. And again, he's just following the Golden Retriever. And then the cat in the original film is a Siamese cat, and it is a male. In Homeward Bound, the cat is a Himalayan cat, and it is a female. Now, another big difference is where the film takes place. In The Incredible Journey, it takes place in the Canadian wilderness. It takes place in Canada. And so the animals are traveling through the Canadian wilderness to find their home. In Homeward Bound, they tell you where it takes place. The family lives in San Francisco. The caretaker of the animals lives in Nevada. And so their journey starts in Nevada, goes through the Nevada wilderness, and into San Francisco. And so then also you could get into the big differences between, there's tons of gender switches and location switches between the two films. In the original film, the caretaker is just an average man. He's a family friend to the main family that owns the animals, and he's a bachelor. The family all lives in Canada, and so again, he moves away to go participate in duck season. So he decides to take off hunting, but he can't take the dogs and cat because it'll be too much of a distraction. And so he asks another friend of his, who's like his housekeeper or a maid, I forget what, but they come and clean up his house and buy him groceries and stuff like that. He pays them to do this, and they're going to supposedly come in and check on the animals and, you know, take care of them. And in Homeward Bound, you have this whole plot of showing a family coming together and getting married, and then the husband has to go off to San Francisco to do I think he's a professor. Yeah, he's a college professor, and he has to go away for a few days, and they have a family friend played by Jean Smart, who's recently back on television in an HBO series, I believe, but at the time she was just fresh off of the show Designing Women, and she plays the caretaker of the animals, and she lives on this ranch in Nevada, and she has to go through of course she raises horses, and so she has to take her horses for a cattle drive, and for a few days, and so she hires another friend of hers, who's a man at a nearby ranch. He comes by to take care of the animals, but by the time he arrives, the animals are gone. And then there's, in both films, both the 1963 film and the 1993 film, there is a miscommunication between a letter, and a letter is one portion of the letter is lost, where it doesn't tell you everything that. So the person that's coming in to take care of the animals, they only get one portion, and thinking that, oh, she took the dogs and cat with her, or he took the dogs and cat with him, and so yeah, that's how it all starts. And then the animals take off because they're homesick. They want to go see their family, and yeah. But another big thing between these two films is how the story is told. In the original 1963 film, the film has a narrator. The narrator is Rex Allen. If you don't know who Rex Allen is, if you ever saw the original animated version of Charlotte's Web, he is the narrator in that film. And so imagine the narrator of the original Charlotte's Web film. He's a narrator of this. And so he's the one that's telling the story of what's going on and with the animals, and what they're feeling, what their emotions are. It's all done through the perspective of a narrator, and plus the way it's filmed kind of like a documentary. And because you're just observing what the animals are doing, the danger that they get into, and just the journey and the emotional journey of what it means for these animals to finally, at the end, when they meet up with their owners and they return home and everybody's happy. But yeah, yeah, that's The Incredible Journey for you. Now, Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, is told completely different. There is no narrator. Instead, and you got to remember, at the time that it came out, one of the biggest comedies that was very, very popular in the early 90s was Look Who's Talking. So they took the Look Who's Talking approach to Homeward Bound and gave the dogs and cat a voice. And in the film, the voices are provided by Michael J. Fox is the young pup called Chance. Sally Field is the voice of the cat, known as Sassy. And then the golden retriever is voiced by the late Don Amici. And his character's name is Shadow. We actually named a dog Shadow after this movie. So, but yeah, and it's told completely different than what the 1963 film is. Like I said, the 1963 film is more filmed in the style of being a documentary, because also at the time Disney was filming a lot of true nature documentaries and wildlife documentaries and stuff like that, and so it kind of fit with at that time. And then Homeward Bound fit within kind of the look who's talking motif, and so they gave the dogs and cat a voiceover by Michael J. Fox, Sally Field, and Don Amici. Don Amici, a little bit of background on him. If you know, I got to explain to the younger viewers, if you ever see the movie Cocoon or Harry and the Hendersons, he's the older gentleman that that is in both those films, and he's a great actor himself. Yeah, with those actors providing voices, along with that comes amped up humor. And so there's a ton of funny and quirky dialogue between the dogs and the cat, and like there's a line that says, there's a line between Sally Field and Michael J. Fox as the dog, and Sally Field's the cat, and she says, it's like I said all along, Poopsie, cats rule and dogs drool. And then Michael J. Fox turns around as the dog says, get a line, get 9 of them. Get a life, get 9 of them. And then there's another line where she's, why would you want to say that to a petite and dewdrop, you big flat-faced butt sniffer? So dialogue like that is in this film. And it's very, 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 very funny dialogue. Sometimes it does get a little cheesy, but it's a family film, and so you can only go so far, and but it also makes you wonder what all the animals went through, because man, you had to have good animal trainers, because you have dogs getting into chase sequences between mountain lions and bears and just other types of wildlife. Domesticated animals is not really a fair match between the wildlife animals, if you know what I mean. So somebody had to be clearly training these animals not to have each other for lunch, But it tells the same exact story. Both films tell the same exact story, and just that it's amazing how you could tell one story, or tell the story from one perspective, and have it be, one version of the film, and then you can have another version that's fairly entertaining. And now the 1963 film was not a throwaway movie. I'm not saying that. It was Walt Disney from the time, and so Walt Disney from the 1990s is not the same Walt Disney from the 1960s. There's big differences, and so but the similarity is that they're both family-friendly stories about these these domesticated house pets who love and miss their owners, trying to make it back home. And of course, Homeward Bound was written by, the screenplay writer was Caroline Thompson, who had just come off of, what was the... Edward Scissorhands. She had just come off Edward Scissorhands with Tim Burton, and she had written several other films. And you have Linda Wolverton, also credited as screenplay writer, and she was doing a lot of work with Disney's animated films, like Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, and yeah, and so if you know the dialogue in those movies, it's very, very quick, very entertaining, and the director of Homeward Bound was Dwayne Dunham. He would go on to do, I think he would go on to do Little Giants with Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill, and but yeah, and the Homeward Bound stars Robert Hayes as well. He plays the dad in the, or the husband. You know, the guy from Airplane, Stryker. Yeah, he plays the dad in this film, and he's, and the way he does it, he plays like the average father. He has some humorous moments in the film, but he's like an average guy, and you wouldn't believe that this is the same guy that you would hear Leslie Nielsen say, "Just wanted to tell you all good luck. We're all counting on you." And the original film, no big stars are in it. The big stars in the film are the animals themselves. As a matter of fact, that's what's credited in the credits. It's Bodger, the bull terrier, Teo, the Siamese cat, and Leouth as the Labrador retriever. Yeah, those were the stars of the film. And so, yeah, there you go. But back to Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey was a popular enough film that it got a sequel, while the original 1963 film had just ended right there. And so, yeah, they came up with Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco, which to me is not as good as Homeward Bound. This time you have Chance being kind of the leader in that film, and again being reprised by Michael J. Fox as the voice, and Sally Field returns as Sassy. The only one that they couldn't get back was Don Amici, because he passed away in between the first and second film. Matter of fact, he passed away about a year or two after the original film was released, and he was replaced by Ralph Waite. If you don't know who Ralph Waite was, it was the Waltons. Anybody? The father in the Waltons. So yeah, he ended up taking Don Amici's place as the voice of Shadow. But yeah, The Incredible Journey. If I had my preference, I would say Homeward Bound. Nothing against the 1963 movie, and that's where it started, but it just me. This one came out when I was a kid, and I ended up seeing this in the theater. Little interesting story is that when we saw it, the film broke just before it started to play. But yeah, the Homeward Bound is the one I saw the most. I saw it in the theater. I watched it on video several times, and just loved that humor that the dogs and the cats have in their dialogue. Again, it's done in that same style of Look Who's Talking, where you have the famous voice actors providing the voices of the animals, but you're just watching a straight-on dog, just look and react, maybe bark here and there, and go on. It's not like today, because this movie came out before Babe. And if it came out after Babe, the animals would have to be CGI, and their lips would have to move. But yeah, that's why I say it's interesting to see that film now and see how, see how they would be put in how they're put in certain situations. There is peril in the film, but the animals live, they survive, they are not seriously hurt. Just the cat goes, almost drowns in the river, and the bulldog gets whacked in the face with porcupine. That's the only thing that happens in terms of peril, but it's very traumatic, especially with the cat, because you think the cat's dead, but obviously the cat makes it back home. So that is my review of The Incredible Journey and Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, and kind of my comparison between the two films. So check them out. They're available on Disney Plus. So yeah, do check them out. Highly recommend them. Until that time, see you later.
The Incredible Journey, a once-in-a-lifetime story based upon Sheila Burnford's best-selling novel in its 14th printing by popular demand. And now, Walt Disney brings this amazing story to the screen in a memorable motion picture, 2 years in the making. See Walt Disney's The Incredible Journey.
Domesticated animals wouldn't stand a chance out here.
And the forces of nature will test their ability to survive.
I miss Shadow, Mom.
It will be an incredible journey home.
Maybe that's where they went.
But that would be hundreds of miles.
In the classic tradition of Walt Disney Entertainment comes Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey.